Welcome to Impact and Influence, the podcast for real estate business owners and professionals who are ready to make a bigger impact, scale, have greater sustainability, and increase their influence. This series opens the door to the sharpest minds across the industry, including agency owners, advisors, and trusted partners who share real-world insights and lessons learnt. These are short, practical conversations designed to save you time, sharpen your strategy, and help you build a business by design, not by default. If you're responsible for growth, profit, client experience, leadership, recruitment, or retention, this podcast is your go-to for smarter choices and more decisive leadership. It's proudly presented by REGROWTH. We are a coaching and consulting business for the real estate arena. We help you build on capability, connection, and curiosity.
Welcome back to the next episode of Impact and Influence. Today, we are joined by Tarym Wright, the BDM from Lifestyle Group on the mid-north coast of New South Wales. Tarym, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For those that don't know Lifestyle Group, you have over 20 offices covering a pretty big area from Foster to Lennox Heads. You're based in the Port Macquarie office. Can you, for everybody, give us a little bit of context from your kind of career to date? Because when you started, you're in Sydney. You moved to Port probably 4 years ago. And I'd just love to know a little bit about how you started and where you are today.
Yeah, well, I started when I was 18 and I looked 12. And I started in Baulkham Hills in Sydney, and I started as a receptionist. After 3 months, I moved into property management as a leasing consultant / property assistant. And I worked with the Kate Benjamin back when she was a BDM. So she is just a fabulous woman in the industry. And so I trained under her. So I do attribute a lot of what I do and how I do it because of her training.
Absolutely.
From there, I became a property manager at the age of 19, 20, and I did that for a year, and I just found that it was not really gelling with what I wanted to do long term. I really wanted to be a BDM, but my age seemed to be, back then, a little bit of a barrier. So we're talking 13 years ago. It was a bit of a barrier because not only was I young, but I looked young. So it took a lot of convincing when the BDM at the time stepped down for me to convince my boss to give me a go. In that first year, I worked 6 days a week and I listed 215 properties, and I became the number one BDM for Harcourts Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was huge, but I also burnt myself out along the way. So it's quite an interesting story. So I did win that national award having resigned a week prior. So it was quite interesting timing, and I worked with Direct Connect for 6 months and decided that I absolutely just got burnt out and didn't hate the industry at all and needed to get back into it. So I actually went into sales for 6 months and still wasn't feeling like that was the right fit. So then I moved to Bell Property at Castle Hill and worked there for 5 years with the most incredible team that I only left because of our move to Port Macquarie 3 years ago.
I just want to touch on something before we get to current day. You've mentioned to me in the past around kind of being really authentic to who you are and owning that space. Like you mentioned before, like when you started, you looked 12.
Yes.
And you struggled. I know struggle is probably the wrong word, but you tried to be older than what you are,
Absolutely.
Look older, sound older. And then you came to this realization of that doesn't work for you and it's really important to be authentic. Can you just touch on that for a moment for me?
Absolutely. So because I was quite young at the time, I did everything that all the trainers were saying. I also emulated Kate in a lot of what I did. And what worked for her actually made me sound arrogant. So even though it made her sound absolutely assertive and a boss woman and all these amazing things and got her listings, for me at my age, it made me sound arrogant. And so it took a while for me to learn that I was probably converting 50%, having to work that, at double time. And that wasn't until I went to Bell Property that I actually peeled back those layers and realized that actually I've got my own uniqueness. I've got my own way of articulating how our service will impact this investor. I need to really use that to my advantage. And once I did that, I worked half as hard and was able to do 3 days of work once I had kids and produce pretty similar results.
It's really interesting, and we talk about this at Regrowth often when we do dialogue training, and it's my message is always, please don't try and sound like me. You've got to try and sound like yourself. Otherwise, as you said, like for you, it came across arrogant. Like you don't sound true to yourself. You don't sound authentic, and people pick up on that. So lesson for anyone starting out in BDM or sales world, and you're practicing your scripts and you're practicing your dialogue. That's great. And I think that's really important, but put your own spin on it. Be true to who you are. Otherwise everyone's going to pick you apart. My opinion.
Yes. And I think as well, also pick your client. There are some clients that don't love all the jargon. And there are some people that just want you to be a real person and, talk a little bit more, to their level and talk about it as a home and not an investment. And so I think you need to, as you get older and more experienced, you start to realize that it's not just you being genuinely you, but you also adapting to what your client needs in that moment. And that's a sales skill. That's somebody that's able to actually profile a person and take that listing presentation and adapt it to what's needed in the moment to be able to close that person.
It's taking that approach of you're not there to sell to them. You're there to help them, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely. We might touch on that in a minute, but I just want to talk about your structure and your overview. So for context for everyone listening, Tarym averages between 30 and 35 a month. Up until recently, you were doing 4 days a week.
Yes.
Without any assistance.
Yeah.
Can you now give me an overview of what that structure of your team looks like, how that's changed, and the impact that that's had on your results?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was 4 days a week last year. So I do have 2 kids, a 5 and a 3-year-old. So they are amazing, but obviously take up a lot of my personal time. We were 4 days a week last year. However, this year my 5-year-old went to school. So instead of doing 5 full-time days, I actually work part-time hours. So I'm still 8 till 2:30, 5 days a week. But I find that that's actually been a lot more workable than the 4 full days, because on the Friday I was just working anyway. So this actually works really well for me. And also the structure has changed. So I think that that's really helped with that transition. So back in October, we brought on a virtual assistant, remote professional with Wingman, who she is just, Marianne is my right wingman. Honestly, she is fabulous. Anybody that is on the fence about a remote professional, do it. It'll be the hardest first 6 weeks of your life training them. But after that, it is just leaps and bounds. She is just incredible. And I couldn't imagine my day without her.
What does she do to support you?
Most of my administration. So she does all my agency agreements. She prepares my proposals. She writes all my ads for me. She does all my agent box admin, because I am a typical sales agent and I am terrible at admin. She goes through my emails. She responds to emails for me if it's something that is easy to respond to. And she actually will go in to all of my sent items and look at how I word things and emulate how I talk with clients. So it's really incredible how much the remote professionals will actually try and embed themselves into how you work and make it just sounded exactly like you. So it is quite seamless from the client's perspective.
And so that's obviously given you more time.
Absolutely. Oh, and she does my social media. Yeah, so
we're going to talk about that, because that's a big part of what you do.
Yes.
But in terms of, actually, no, let's talk about the social media now, because when we talk about, finding opportunities and lead generation in BDM, we know the obvious things. You have this fabulous way of building your pipeline and staying relevant in your marketplace and connecting with people. And a big part of that is your social media. What is it you're doing?
So I am from a regional area. So Port Macquarie is actually quite a small town. It's still massive compared to a lot of other regional areas, but everybody knows everybody. So when I got here 3 years ago, breaking into the market was incredibly difficult, because it was, oh no, I'm going to lease it through my brother's cousin's friend. So it was really, really difficult to really make my stamp on the community. So before I did social media, I actually did a little bit of a two-step process. I got out in my community and just got visible, got seen, and I joined a networking group for women, because that worked with myself and my children, whereas BNI, which is usually what a lot of people do, that just didn't work with my schedule. So I went with the Hastings Business Women's Network, and I actually asked to be on the committee. And I did that strategically, number one, to make friends because I just moved to the area, and two, to meet new business people that could potentially be a referral source down the track. And it's actually turned into an amazing friendship group. And it's the reason why my social media has done so well, because my social media isn't about just me. It isn't just about business, but it is about my area, my marketplace, and my community. And the community are the ones that are engaging with my social media. So without that community backing, all that I do on social media is irrelevant. And anything that anybody does is irrelevant if you don't have the backing of that social proof. And that's why it's social media.
And do you track the referrals that come through those networks and that social media in terms of your leads?
Yeah, so social media is a lot harder to track because it really comes down to those 12 points of contact of trust before a client will actually work with you. But I do find more than anything, I get people ask lots of rental questions through it. And so it's just building that presence. And so I'll have people that will message me and say, hey, my friend's looking for a rental, would love your help. And then when I help that person find a rental, they go, oh my gosh, thank you so much for helping me. And then they'll tell their friend and they'll tell their friend. And eventually it all comes around in circles. So you can't necessarily track social media. And I think that's what gripes a lot of people, because they want to know, like, what's my solid referral source? And unfortunately, you're never going to find it. These are your call-ins. These are your calls to your mobile. These are the people that are going through your website and saying, hey, Tarym, these are the people that have been following you for a while, and start to build that trust because of your content and because of what message you're giving, and also how you engage with them online through those messages. Because if you're not willing to give free advice, then you're probably not somebody that people want to work with. And I think that that's really important, that you have to do the work and communicate with people through those channels in order for them to trust you.
It's the relevance piece, isn't it? It's that continuous, I call it education,
Yes.
Help education, like whatever it is. But you're right, you've got to give before you can take. And I think that's really important. And you do that so well, but it's about your brand. So obviously we've got this incredible lifestyle group brand that's fantastic. And the name in the area is already there, but you're building a brand within a brand almost. Yeah. And that's where you get to shine and you get to show your personality as well, I think is really important.
Definitely.
Firstly, well done, because I think it's awesome. And you'll probably get a few more followers after us talking about this.
I think as well, and if I can give anyone advice, I spent so many years worrying about what content I was putting on there. I'm going to be honest, like, it did not happen overnight in the slightest. I've only really been active for about 4 months properly. And at first, I felt like it was only professional content that was going to get me anywhere. But I found it since I've done the content that's a little bit more fun and engaging and different, and trending is important, unfortunately, as much as we all like to think that it's not. It really is nowadays, because if you're looking for a recipe, where do you go? TikTok. So it's becoming that demographic as we generationally change, that people will be looking to social media to source the best professional in the field. And that's just where we're heading. So we need to either keep up or we'll get left behind.
That's obviously a really big point of difference for you. Are there any other, when we talk about, points of difference against your competitors, when you're pitching against competitors, you've got this brand that's out there. What other points of difference would you say you have as part of the lifestyle group?
If you can work out any numbers, and Kylie Walsh actually taught me this, market share, because we have a 30% market share within the Port Macquarie market. So if you just go on the 2021 census and work out how many rental properties were in the area in your postcode, and then compare that with what's on your portfolio and work out how much of your portfolio is a percentage of that, you'll work out your market share. And also the back-end data on Ignite that's available through realestate.com. Those tangible facts as to how you're performing as an agent. And for all of those data-driven clients, that's important. It may not seem it to you, but if somebody's trying to compare us with another agent, I can easily say, well, we actually have 30% market share and the next one under us is 12%. So what does that mean for you, Mr. Landlord? It means that we're leasing more than double the person under us. So we're able to provide you with a much bigger scope of tenant audience and be able to bring you the highest quality tenant here in the market.
That's pretty good dialogue.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. And it's a great point of difference because it's social proof, isn't it?
It really is.
It's the facts that people can actually see, and it's that tangible social proof. You've reminded me of something when I was listening to that dialogue then. You've had some fantastic impact with your existing landlords. Can you talk to us about that?
So what Kylie Walsh likes to call the great implementers, we take an idea and I just cannot let go of that idea until we put it into place. It's just who I am as a person. It's probably more a distraction from prospecting if I'm really honest.
We'll forgive you because you're at 30 a month.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Dave will kill me.
So what we've actually done is back when we first started meeting with Kylie, she mentioned about the importance of asking people whether they have an appetite to grow their portfolio. So I tweaked that a little bit and created what we call the Landlords First program. And what that means is that any landlord in our books, we wanted to have a reason to be calling them and to add them to this program to be exclusively updated with properties that would make good investments coming to the market. And again, because we've got over 20 offices, we're not just talking about properties in Port Macquarie, we're talking about properties in Grafton, we're talking about Lismore, which, by the way, South Lismore has the highest rental yield at 9.79% in New South Wales. So it is a great investment opportunity for people looking for high yield, although high risk because of the flood potential as well. So it just depends on what you're looking for as an investor. So we took that Landlords First program and called quite a few landlords in our database, and we currently have 126 key landlords looking to grow their portfolio that we send monthly an update on properties that we have on our sales books that they're updated on and can let us know if they're interested in buying another property that's on that list. So they know that they're not just every property, they're properties that I've identified as would make a good investment, high yield, dual income, multi-block set of units, those sorts of properties.
And how often do you communicate that with them?
Once a month. We wanted to make it something where they didn't feel like they were just being spammed. We pre-prepped every single person saying it'll only be monthly. You can opt out at any time. We've had no opt-outs, by the way. And we send them 3 different emails. Here are your Mid-North Coast opportunities. Here are your Clarence Valley opportunities. And here's your Northern Rivers opportunities, so that they could decide, if they were area-based and really wanted something in that capital growth area of the Mid-North Coast, then they would choose from there.
That's awesome. Tarym, you have to be one of the most successful, relatable BDMs in the country.
Oh.
And I love that you tie in, your market knowledge is next level, but you tie that into being really true to who you are. For those listening that are really starting out in that BDM space, what's your one tip for them if they're starting out?
Other than being authentic, just get into the trenches. Get out, get to know your market, not just your market, but every single, person that's out there, because the person that owns the cafe down the road could have 3 investment properties. Get to know your local bakery. We actually introduced, when I first started, I really, really wanted to implement this in Castle Hill, but never had the opportunity. And so when I came here to Port, I actually introduced tenant vouchers. So I went out to local businesses. I put a call out on the Port Macquarie Notice Board Facebook group and said that I wanted to work with businesses that wanted a bit more exposure. We lease 50 properties a month here in Port Macquarie alone on average. So I wanted to get their business in front of more people and ask them for just a little discount that's exclusive to lifestyle clients. So it would be, $20 off a haircut. Because when I moved here, I had to find a whole new hairdresser. I had to find a new mechanic. You don't realize that, especially in such a transient marketplace that we're in here in Port, where people are moving in and moving out depending on their lifestyle choices, we wanted to make sure that people knew who to go to, where were the hidden gems. And for those that are already in the area, just getting to know a new place. You might be sick of the old one. So it was really, really good to get involved with the businesses, and that helped to boost that social proof and also to reward our tenants that were moving in with us and give them a bit of market and community knowledge as well.
Next level client experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very passionate about the client experience.
You are passionate about everything that you do, and that is credit to you and shows in your results.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been awesome talking to you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Impact and Influence. Click follow to get notified about future episodes. Leaving a review helps others find the podcast. And to learn more about our courses, our study tours, conferences, keynote topics and our services, or how simply we might be able to help support you in taking you to places you never thought possible, please visit regrowthkyliewalsh.com.